We're getting ready to start the program. If you please take your seats. Thank you. Good morning. We're ready to start the program. If you please be seated. Thank you. So I'll say it again. Good morning. My name is Susan Balance, and I have the wonderful privilege of serving on the board of directors for the Relatives and to kick off this 8th annual event. At this time, I'd like to ask Reverend Karen Easter Bain to bless our food. Dr. Bain is with Dilworth United Methodist Church and where the Relatives all began.
Good morning. It's good to see all of you here this morning. What a wonderful gathering this is. And we did begin the Relatives years and years ago, and what a great joy it is to see how it has grown and flourished, thanks to all who have supported it through the years. Let us pray together. Oh, good and gracious God, we thank you for this day when we can come together to celebrate the help, healing, and hope that is provided to young people and families through the Relatives. We're thankful for the staff and volunteers whose compassion and wisdom help so many who are troubled and who continue to give so unstintingly of their time and skill and love. We give thanks for all who support this community ministry through their financial gifts. Help them, help us, to be generous so that more teens and young adults can receive the safety, guidance, and support they need. We are grateful for those who will share with us their stories today, for their courage in telling them, and for the ways their lives and homes have been transformed through the good work of the Relatives. And we give thanks most of all, O Lord, to you for your abiding love for all of us, rich and poor, young and old, black, brown, and white, housed and unhoused, strong and struggling alike. Help us to see one another as brothers and sisters, all created in your image. Thank you for the food before us. Bless it to our health and well-being, and bless our time of fellowship around these tables. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Please go ahead and enjoy your breakfast as we continue our program. So today, we hope to open a door in the lives of youths who have run away, are homeless, in a crisis situation, or who just need additional resources to successfully make that hard transition into adulthood. We hope you'll see how the Relatives have been a safe place and means for support for our community's youth over 41 years. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors whose support allows 100% of the funds raised this morning to go directly towards services for our youth. Please see these generous sponsors on the screen behind me. We also wish to thank Designer Glass Mosaics for the beautiful centerpieces made by the kids from the Relatives. And we thank our photographers, Candace and Daniel Lanning, who are donating their services this morning. A special thanks go to our Safe Place partners, Quick Trip, Chick-fil-A South End, and Emil's French Bakery and Cafe for our breakfast treats this morning, and thank you to Dunkin' Donuts for our coffee. We also wish to thank Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church for the venue this morning. And thank you for all coming, and a special welcome to you that have not attended one of our special mid-month tours, or quarterly tours, semi-monthly tours, excuse me. For those of you who have not yet attended one of these very special tours, please talk with your table captain about upcoming dates. And finally, a thank you to our table captains and board of directors and other dignitaries attending for our special opening doors breakfast with the Relatives. How many of you in the audience remember being a teenager? Yeah, exactly. I became involved with the board of directors several years ago when, as a mother of two teenage boys, I experienced the struggles my boys and their friends were going through as they began that difficult transition from teenage to young adult. And these were children in affluent neighborhoods, going to great schools with very deep support networks and resources. It really opened my heart to the incredible struggles kids have that don't have these privileges to make that transition and to be safe. And I wanted to make a difference for them. I was inspired by the work of the relatives. So here at the relatives, we believe every kid deserves a safe place to sleep and a fighting chance to make it. This organization, the only one of its kind in Mecklenburg County, is the relatives, and the door is always open. Today, we're going to highlight some of those stories. Please continue your email.
Good morning. Let's try it again. Good morning. My name is Brennan Graham, and for the past 10 years, I've had the honor of serving as the executive director of the Relatives. I've had the honor of leading a wonderful staff that opens doors every day because we believe that all children deserve to be safe, to have stability, and the true opportunity for a successful future. Today, you're going to hear stories of growing up and of adolescence. Stories that are near and dear to my heart, but truly unlike my childhood reality. For me, I had two wonderful parents. They were always there for me, even when I didn't care or appreciate it. We didn't have a lot of money, but to be honest, I never knew it until I grew up. Love, stability, and safety were always there for me. I had some hard experiences as an adolescent. Many of them I created. And many of them would have given me a considerably different adult life. But my parents were still there for me, always guiding and always the fallback. On many occasions throughout my childhood, I can recall them being just that for other young people in our community. But when I started at the Relatives, I quickly saw that there was very little difference between me and those kids that we served. The one factor that truly made a difference for me was the support that I got from my parents, and that's all that I needed. The biggest eye-opener for me was that so many of our kids don't have that, something that we take for granted. But I can't imagine how my life would be without my parents to open the doors for me. And that's why I'm here today. My hope is to always continue to be a fallback for those kids who need help. And today, you're going to hear stories of how the Relatives has been that support for some really special young people. The mission of the Relatives is achieved in three very simple ways: providing safety for youth like Janice, who ran away in the middle of the night because she was tired of living in her home that was virtually a drug house. Providing stability to young people like Caitlin and Ashley, whose family spent 8 months living in their car while doing what they could to ensure their kids went to school every day. And helping to clear paths to successful futures for kids like Daniel, a straight-A student whose home life was so disruptive that he was on the verge of dropping out of school. Now he's in his second year of college. In the past year, thanks to our Giving Society and other loyal donors, our work has supported more than 4,000 young people and families in this community, providing shelter and crisis services to nearly 3,400 youth and families, empowering more than 700 emerging adults to find safe housing, obtain necessary job skills, or work towards education goals. We've developed and continue to develop critical partnerships with other caring organizations in this community to identify the gaps and fill those gaps as we need to. Because as we all know, this work is just too big to handle all by yourself. But for young people in our community, we know that this is only the beginning. For the Relatives, this is the beginning. We will not let any more kids be let down. As an organization, we're committed to breaking these cycles of homelessness and crisis that plague the youth in our community. Cycles that lead to incarceration, exploitation, and continued burdens that no young person ever deserves. A commitment that will ensure that our youth are a part of our community rather than being seen as trouble and problems within it. Many of our kids have so many cards stacked against them. Of all the 16 and 17-year-olds who stayed at our crisis center last year, we know for sure that only a handful had the critical foundation of support, knowledge, education, and preparation to survive on their own after turning 18. 65% of the young adults seeking help at our on-ramp resource center had already been arrested more than 3 times. 40% had not completed farther than 9th grade. More than half were or had been homeless at some point since turning 18. Many actually make their beds right outside of our office door each night. And amazingly, but not surprisingly, more than 90% had been in foster care or in one of our other public systems. I dream of a day when every young person has the love and support that everyone needs, a place to call home that every child needs to be successful. A day when we can break those cycles of crisis and problems, adult problems pressing down on our youth. I dream of a day when our kids who have aged out of our systems age out to college and career readiness instead of to the streets, shelters, and to jail. I dream of a day when the cost of preparing kids to be truly successful is not the primary barrier to making that a reality. For the relatives, that cost is about $1,100, a mere drop in the bucket compared to the nearly $28,000 per year per inmate we pay. In order to make these dreams happen, we need to radically change the way our community supports our kids. Much of that starts with awareness. We need folks to understand that the face of homelessness is not just an adult face. Our young people are growing up in our systems and in our community headed to jail or to live on the streets, becoming prostitutes, stealing, or getting arrested just so they can have a place to eat and a place to sleep. We need feet on the ground. We know that one more staff member can impact the lives of more than 100 young people within our services. We also need to identify safe housing options that support the unique needs of these young people, whose backgrounds, lack of family support, and unpreparedness keep them rotating through the cycles of homelessness and dependency. But if we don't make those changes, we will have turned our backs on our community's most vulnerable citizens. Kids who have witnessed and lived so many horrific things that most adults aren't even strong enough to handle. Kids who have never been taught that better is possible and survival should not be the ultimate goal. Kids who have been, or who have had every door closed in their faces, or have been afraid to even knock on those doors. These kids deserve help to push opportunity's door wide open. So I'm asking each of you in this room today to join the relatives in pushing open those doors for our kids in the community. Because together, we will make sure that every young person has safety, stability, and a clear pathway to successful futures. Now, I'd like to introduce you to some of the faces of the relatives so you can hear our mission through their words.
Hello. My name is Inez Pfeiffer, and I'm here to tell you how the relatives helped me when I had a crisis situation. It's not easy to admit to you that I had a problem raising my granddaughter. This is really a hard story for me to tell, so I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read it to you. My story begins when my daughter, you might say, married the wrong man. However, 2 wonderful gifts came from that relationship. My 2 grandchildren, Madison and Adam. You see, our daughter died at the age of 39 from breast cancer. Madison's dad had suffered from substance abuse issues for years. Now the children needed stability. And we had more than enough evidence to take that evidence to court and get legal custody of them. Madison had just completed the 6th grade when we were awarded custody. She was full of anger, dealing with the death of her mom and dealing with her dad's substance abuse issues. She had been abused both verbally and physically. I could feel her pain from being left with the feeling of abandonment She had trouble expressing her feelings. Anger escalated. Luckily, we were members of United Methodist Church because so many people helped us with Madison. But most of all, Tresca McSwain. Tresca, would you stand up? She became our youth coordinator at the time and took Madison under her wing and became her mentor. Tresca always engaged the youth to participate in projects to help the community. And one night, they cooked tacos and brought them over to the relatives, and I volunteered. And little did I know that that night would save a situation that got completely out of control. Madison became a teenager, and one might say parental supervision drove her up a tree. When she got caught making a wrong choice, she was a genius with her comments. I could not talk to her or make her understand how to deal with issues in a calm manner. She would convince counselors or anyone who would listen that I was her worst enemy. One night, her aggressive behavior, though, became violent. It was like a little monster came out because I had taken her phone away as a consequence. Madison lost her temper and pushed me so hard, I fell and broke my arm. I became so afraid. My body began to tremble uncontrollably, and I felt completely helpless. My husband was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, so, that was confusion for him, and her brother was totally shocked. This was a crisis situation. As I lay flat on the floor, the memory of the relatives came gushing to my head. I called Tresca. She quickly came to my rescue and brought Madison to the relatives. They spent time with her, trying to find out what in the world was going on. The next day I was conferenced with. They could tell we were not in a place we could solve our problem. Madison remained there for a whole week. Shaquila, stand up. She was my angel. She was our counselor. She was so wonderful in helping us understand that we both had issues. She counseled both of us until we could begin to resolve our problem. She taught us to listen to each other without interrupting, because I was bad at that. Madison lived in a safe environment where she experienced other teens helping out around the house. She saw how rules were calmly being enforced and feelings were shared. I'm very grateful to have had the relatives to help us solve our problems. I don't know what would have happened to us after that accident. We both had come to our frustration point. For a year, counselors kept phoning to see how we were doing. They didn't leave us. They stayed with us a whole year. Madison knows that Shaquila is a lifelong friend who she can call on at any time in her life. She even came back to Shaquila and said, "Help me with my senior project." Madison is a wonderful girl with a huge heart. In spite of all her past misfortunes, she finished high school as a fantastic student, swam on a swim team, played soccer, and enjoyed being a part of Dilworth's youth, Tresca. She's now a freshman at Appalachian State University. For the past two summers, she worked at Camp Toccoa, a Methodist camp in Hendersonville. They bragged on her how well she did, and I'm bragging on her today. I hope she can truly embrace how much I love her and how proud I am of the person she has become. Words could never express the gratitude I feel for the group of angels called the relatives. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Edward Garrett, and I serve as a volunteer mentor at the Relatives. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing to you a young man whose story exemplifies the potential that the Relatives has to be a positive force in the lives of children and young adults in our community facing extraordinary challenges. Last year, while taking a tour of the Crisis Center, I learned that in addition to helping children reconcile with their families, the Relatives also serves young adults who have aged out of foster care. At 18 years of age, they are deemed adults and set loose to face life on their own, generally with no family with which to reconcile and no support structure. Having personally benefited from mentors at key moments in my life, I knew I had to be involved. And that is how I had the privilege of meeting Zach Taylor, a young man who has overcome tremendous adversity in his life and has managed not merely to survive, but has managed to excel. This morning, you have the privilege of meeting Zach as he is here to share his story and the role that the Relatives has played in his life. As Zach shares a bit of his story, understand that it is not an easy story to tell, especially in a forum such as this. So, to help Zach feel more comfortable in sharing some of the personal details of his life, I told him that I would do the same. Like Zach, as a teenager, I had to leave home to escape an environment that was dominated by alcoholism. I had no plan of where I was going to go or what I was going to do. I just knew that for my own sanity, I had to get out. After wandering around trying to figure out where I was going to go, I knocked on the door of some friends and asked if I could stay with them for a night. That overnight stay turned into a stay of several years that allowed me to focus on finishing school and my own emotional recovery. It was a humbling experience that still affects me today. I did not have access to an organization like the Relatives, but I am grateful that Zach does. With the support of the Relatives, Zach has been able to find the strength within himself to overcome obstacles that could have easily diverted him onto a self-destructive path. Instead, he has managed to learn from his mistakes and to better himself. As you listen to Zach's story, consider the paths that he could have easily taken in the face of such adversity. And then the profound impact of the Relatives becomes clear. Zach?
Morning. This morning I have been asked to share with you a little bit about my life. As Edward said, sharing difficult moments of your life is not easy to do. But if doing so will allow the Relatives to help other young adults facing tough odds, I'm happy to have the opportunity. From an early age, I had a challenging family life. When I was only 3 years old, my father attempted suicide and ended up in a coma. My mother remarried a man who physically abused her, and I was sent to live with family in Georgia. But that did not last long, and after my mother abandoned me, I was sent to live in a group home and eventually faced in foster care. I was transferred between several different foster homes before I turned 18 and aged out of the system. After years of being passed between foster homes, I was suddenly an adult and expected to make it out on my own. Without any family support, I had nowhere to go. I was homeless. After living on the streets for a while, I ended up in a homeless shelter. That is where I heard about the Relatives On-Ramp program. The staff at On-Ramp was fantastic. For the first time, I felt I had someone on my side helping me navigate life. They gave me food when I was hungry and counseling when I was depressed, and they never turned me down. They became my friends. One of my favorite staff members is Jeremy Wilson, who is here today. Thank you, Jeremy. Whenever I asked him something, he would always give me his word, and he always stayed on top of things. He's so personable and so down to earth as well. He's easy to talk to, and he would always give me great advice. Every Monday, Jeremy would have a job listing on who's hiring. He helped me revise my resume and cover letter. and that's how I got my first job as a host at Buffalo Wild Wings. I kept that job while living in a homeless shelter and even managed to get a second job to save some money. Then I met Edward through the relatives, and he became my mentor. We talk a lot. He gives me a lot of advice. We go out to lunch, hang out at coffee shops, and talk about life. Edward is always there for me, and from what he told me, I knew that he had a hard time growing up too. I feel like we connect on a lot of levels, including our shared interest in photography, the symphony, and exotic cars as well. I talked to Edward about wanting to get out of my minimum wage jobs and find a way to work with cars. Through another volunteer at the shelter, I had got an introduction to the owner of Automotive International, a service center for exotic cars. I was fortunate to get an interview, and after prepping for the interview with the relatives, staff, and Edward, I got a job offer. The owner saw potential in me, and he wanted to give me a chance to prove myself. I was able to quit my 2 minimum wage jobs, and now I work on cars like this every day. Okay.
It's a nice one.
I'm lucky to have a job anyway where I work on Ferraris and Bentleys. And Edward always says he wants to come work for me. There it is. I went back and got my high school diploma from CPCC, and now I've had my own apartment for about 9 months. I think about joining the military sometimes, but I don't know. If this automotive career works out, I could be making a good bit of money, especially with the higher end cars. I'm with great company where I'm learning new skills every day. And Edward introduced me to a friend that works on a NASCAR team who gave me advice on how he got into that industry. Now, I'm 23, and after years of struggling, I'm finally making some progress. I've certainly made some mistakes along the way, but with the help of the relatives, I've had a lot of great people helping me and giving me support, and they still are. I don't know what lies ahead for me. I have lots of ambition and more challenges to face, but without the relatives, I wouldn't be where I am today, and that's for sure.
Good morning. My name is John Charles Kernodle, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving on the board of directors for the Relatives. I live in Dilworth, and like many of you, I drive by the Relatives' house on East Boulevard frequently, but I didn't know the story about the Relatives. So I asked a good friend and neighbor of mine, Al Lindeman, what the Relatives is all about. He explained that the Relatives is all about helping young kids and youth who are at risk. Kids that are in crisis or homeless, or kids who just need a kind word and a safe place to sleep. After speaking with Al, it became evident to me that the Relatives organization reaches these kids with immediate hands-on help, and I knew that I wanted to get involved. So when I was asked to become a leadership volunteer with the Relatives, I said yes. Today we've heard 2 remarkable stories about how the Relatives is reaching at-risk youth in our community. Zachary Taylor and Madison Brown's grandmother, Inez Pfeiffer. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us this morning. Zach and Inez were lucky enough to either know about or find out about the Relatives. I want to tell you how you can help them and others like them. Today, I want to ask for your financial support. To inspire your gift today, I'm honored and proud to announce a matching gift from the Leon Levine Foundation, founded by Sandra and Leon Levine. They will match dollar for dollar all new, increased, and lapsed gifts up to $25,000. We are grateful to the Leon Levine Foundation for helping the Relatives raise more money and more new donors and friends than ever at this, the 8th Breakfast for the Relatives. We are happy to say that we have leadership gifts and corporate gifts totaling $115,000. We are grateful and appreciative to our board and donors. And so now I'd like to ask you to join me in the Multi-Year Giving Society to help sustain our programs. And now I'd like to ask the table captains to please distribute the pledge forms. Starting at the top of the card, I'd like you to please consider joining the Circle of Giving Society by making a multi-year pledge. If you are already a member, we would appreciate your consideration of any additional gift to your already generous commitment. We have three categories of multi-year giving: Circle of Hope, Circle of Life, and Circle of Trust. First, let me begin with the Circle of Hope. This is a pledge of $1,000 a year for the next 5 years. For an average of $83 a month, you can provide the gift of hope for the children of the relatives by providing support for programs like our parenting classes. Please check this box if you can help. Our next giving level is the Circle of Life. This is a commitment of $10,000 a year for the next 5 years. A gift at this level allows the relatives to open a door of hope to the hundreds of kids who age out of foster care, like Zach, through our on-ramp program. If you would consider a gift at this level, please check this box. The next giving level is the Circle of Trust. And this is a pledge of $25,000 per year for the next 5 years. This level allows the relatives to ensure the future of the agency by bringing safety, stability, and successful futures for many more children and youth in our community. Please check this box if you can help open the way for so many more. If you are joining me today as a member of a multi-year giving society, my personal thanks for your generous support. We know and respect that you may prefer to give at a different level, and so we provide additional options just for you. If you prefer to give at a different level, please indicate how much you would like to give and for how many years. We truly appreciate whatever level of support you can provide. Every gift will make a difference in the lives of the kids that we serve. As you can see on the pledge form, we have several payment options, including credit card, check, or securities. If you can make your gift or payment today, this will allow the relatives to make the most of the matching grant and increase your power of giving to us. Each and every dollar counts to help save a child. Whatever gift you have chosen to make today, whether you've become a member of our multi-year giving society or made a gift at a different level, we sincerely thank each and every one of you on behalf of the children and families that we serve. We thank you all for the most important gift that you gave today, the gift of your valuable time. We appreciate that you took time out of your busy lives to be here this morning. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn our program back over to Susan Balance.
Oh, somebody took my page. So first, I owe an apology I butchered the name of Amelie's. I am apparently French challenged. I just want to thank everybody for coming out this morning personally. Thank you for your time and your generous donations. Oh, thanks. All right, let me go back to my speech now. We hope you'll share the stories that you've heard today with others. And thank you for, again, your time and your generous support to help create safety, stability, and successful futures for our children. And have a great day.